Greetings, comrades. My name is Gigantos, and I know the title may be a bit confusing for some of you. I just want to make it clear that I'm not living like a Bruce Willis movie moment here, okay? I don't see dead people around me, like literally ghosts and stuff. But I do see spiritually dead people. But not just spiritually dead people, but people who they just don't have ambition in life, and it's a bit sad, even without the religious side of things. I noticed that, particularly in my generation, there's not as much ambition as there used to be when it comes to moving people to do something. Because to get anywhere in life, you need to have ambition. Okay, you need to have the will to move forward, the will to aim for something. But my generation, it seems to be mostly dead just void of ambition, and it doesn't really push anyone forward. So instead of aiming for something in the long term, they're usually aiming for something in the short term, and that's not always a good thing. Because whilst it is important to have like the small goals to achieve each day, they're not aiming for something bigger in the end. At the end of the day, I mean, I do have ambitions for what I want to do later on in life, and it's going to take quite a lot of steps to get there. But I'm trying to work towards that. Okay, no matter how long it's taking, I'm trying to work towards that. But they just don't have the ambition to move forward. And then from the spiritual side, they're effectively spiritually dead, which is a shame. They just have no desire to really move forward. And it's not just seeing it like around my neighborhood, but also on sometimes I see on Facebook as well. It's not in any like the Catholic groups or Christian groups I'm in, but when I go into pages, when I go into like a news article or something, and I see people talk about religion for some reason, whether the article talks about it or not, you usually see these people have no motivation at all when it comes to trying to get closer towards the faith. Even like in the Catholic Church, because in most the Catholic Church, you need there's stuff like holy days of obligation. You need to go to confession, at least once a year, and even if you don't go to the holy days of obligation, there's still you have to go during Christmas and Easter. But and that's maybe like the not just the minimum, but the bare minimum at that. But when it comes to relationship with God, you need to actually put things in on your end, right? God is willing to give you all the time you need. Okay, He's willing to give you everything, but you need to actually just like in a relationship, it goes two ways. Okay, just as He's willing to give you things, you also need to give Him stuff back as well. You need to try and become closer towards Him. You need to put time aside for Him. You need time to pray. You need time to go and meet Him in church and stuff. Or for us, meet Him in church, literally. You need to actually put in effort from your end. And from what I see, there are people who really don't even do that. Like they're just spiritually dead. They're cafeteria Catholics as well, which is a bit of a shame. Because that means they just pick and choose what to believe. But there's no motivation at all for anything they believe. They just exist, really. Like, I would describe the Muslims as like husks. They just exist there, and they don't really do anything, which is a shame. Because if I know that there are quotes which talk about how give me an army praying the rosary and I will conquer the world with them or something. It's like most of the world is in some sort of limbo, so the majority was that limbo state, and then you have maybe the few devout people trying to move it forwards, and then you have everyone else not in those two categories trying to pull it back. And it's a shame. It's effectively like trying to drag a dead weight. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people are just not only are they too lazy to even do anything about it, but even when they know that the people pulling them forwards will require them to put in effort, they'll actually pull back and say, "No, don't pull us. You stay right here with us." So they're actually trying to hold back the people who are trying to pull them forwards as well, and that's a shame because then that can affect those who are trying to become devoted, but then the weight of society pulls back on them and it stops them moving forward. It's definitely going to be problematic to reach into that mass of husks that make up the majority of the world, and actually try and pull out people to help join us at the narrow gate. I'm not making an assumption about salvation here. I'm just saying that we need to try and bring people out of that spiritually dead limbo and try and bring them closer towards us as we try and become closer towards God. What I'm going to say next, okay, you probably see from the title, don't misinterpret it, because when I say that people say that I'm apparently part of a cult that worships people, whatever, it's not Protestants accusing me of worshipping the saints or Mary, okay? It is not. Oddly enough, it's actually fellow Catholics accusing me of this. And the reason why is because, let's say I'm, in a sense, I'm not going to go into a whole thing about politics here, But let's say I'm definitely part of a political minority. Okay, I am, and for some reason, it's meant that a lot of Catholics around me have accused me of worshipping politicians, which is strange. Like, just because I disagree with them politically over something, they seem to claim that I worship politicians. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, what? Why would you think I'm worshipping a politician? And then they go off on a rant about politics or why I'm wrong or why they're right. Now, it's one thing to have a discussion with someone, a reasonable discussion about politics, but when people are, in a sense, they're so indoctrinated in their own beliefs that they believe it to be fact. Okay, they believe it to be fact. And it's at the point where the moment they meet someone who disagrees with them, because of cognitive dissonance, they literally cannot accept the fact that there are people out there who disagree with them because they see their way as one and only truth. Because of that, they say that you must be part of a cult that rejects evidence and everything and the truth, which is why you are the unreasonable person, and they go off on a rant about how unreasonable you are. And it's irritating because I usually talk about the need for dialogue when it comes to things, because despite having you can be of different religions and different beliefs and different politics and everything. Okay, you can be from any different thing you want, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I can disagree with what you believe, and you can disagree with what I believe. There's nothing wrong with that either. But regardless of who's right or wrong, there needs to be a way for all of us to coexist together. Okay, we need to accept that just because we have different opinions about things and different beliefs doesn't mean we should hate each other for that. The people who call me, who accuse me of worshipping a politician in some sort of political cult, I don't hate them for accusing me of that. I don't. I'm just more slightly annoyed that they'd go so far as to claim that I am part of some sort of cult worshipping a politician, especially when they know that I'm not acquaintance, but I'm quite familiar with cults. And they know the work I'm doing against the Eastern Lightning cult, me and my friends. Okay, they know about what we're doing against the cults. Yet they claim that I am apparently part of a cult, and it's irritating. And something that came to mind a little while back, I was thinking about, because I know that you've probably heard me say, especially with regards to the biblical archaeology series, you've probably heard me say that I want to go to the Middle East at one point. You know, to go there, to go to all the holy sites. Okay, to go to Jerusalem, like for instance, and to go see all the sites of the Passion and everything. And I really do want to go there. And I was thinking to myself, like, almost imagining myself going there, well, where I would go, what I would do, and everything. And something funny occurred to me. So the way I imagined this was, I'm going there. Okay, let's say I'm going there with friends or family. Okay, and so I'm busy walking along Jerusalem, and I stop and look down at the ground, and I pick up a handful of dust, and it fall between my. Okay, so I pick up a handful of dust, and it fall between my fingers. And then when they look at me, I'm like smiling. Okay, I'm struggling to control my laughter, and whilst the dust is still falling from my fingers, I look at them and I say, there are people on Earth who would pay tens of dollars, tens of pounds, tens of euros, whatever, for just a small vial of this dust I have in my hands right now. Yet here I am literally walking on it. And then I go like pick up a stone or something and I go, this could probably sell for quite a bit. Yet here I am kicking it along with my shoe. And I start pointing out stuff like this. So I point out flowers in the Holy Land, or I point out tree branches, or like even thorny branches or whatever. And it's in a sense, it's quite funny how there are people in the West and in the East, like all over the world, who would literally pay a sum for just relics of the Holy Land. Okay, whether it be grains of sand, or branches, or leaves, or was it called Jericho flowers or something? Meanwhile, you have literally the nation of Israel existing there, and they're busy doing their work. They're just living everyday lives, and there they are, just children kicking these stones that could sell for a fortune on Amazon or Etsy. They're busy, they're busy making footprints in the sand and dust that we would pay a fortune for. They're busy snapping twigs off branches and casting them aside that we would pay a fortune for. It's just strange. Like we hold up like Jerusalem, like relics of Jerusalem and the Middle East, like just some amazing sights. Just we need to have pieces of it in our home. And then there are people who actually live there, just existing, and they're like, this is just our home. I mean, imagine something like that happening in your place. So it doesn't matter where you live. maybe you live near like a shrine or something, and people take like pieces of the shrine home. So just take, not like break off pieces of the actual shrine, but they just take rocks and branches and stuff back to them with home. You may think of that as really weird, saying, I live here and I've never done that in my entire life. And then there are people who would literally pay a fortune to have pieces of that. So it's definitely strange to imagine that. So there's been me seeing an army of spiritually and ambitiously dead people. There's me talking about the strangeness of how it must be to live in a place where people just want to have a piece of literally the ground that you step on, and dirt that you just see as just plain dirt and branches and stone. And then there's been me accused of being in some sort of political cult or something, or worshipping a politician, simply because I have different opinions of other people, which is a shame. Just being a usual week of dealing with heretics, and I am definitely getting a lot more comfortable when it comes to arguments and dealing with them now. Something I have been considering doing for a while now on my channel is actually making almost like some sort of like a battle log series, in which I just put up basically the logs of why am I saying logs? I just put up like transcripts or the scripts of various conversations and arguments I've had with people, so you guys can see the sort of people I argue with and how to counter what they say. Okay, I've been thinking about doing that for a while. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who would maybe gain experience or just an understanding how to deal with people from seeing apologetics used in a practical example. Anyways, hopefully guys you have a good weekend. God bless you all. See you next video, comrades. Until then.